Welcome to the Fantasy Football Endgame with your hosts, Pierre and Chris Mangano.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Football Endgame. I'm Pierre Camus. With me is Chris Mangano, and we are here to help you win, dominate, and crush your opponents in fantasy football each and every week with some start-sit advice and the best strategies that you may not have thought of before setting your lineup. So we're not going to give you the same advice as every other site and podcast. Forget all those. This is the end game. Our point is to help you win, period. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the little notification bell that tells you as soon as each of our episodes is uploaded. We'll be here every week to help you throughout the regular season and the off season. All right, so don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit us up with some comments too. All right, so Chris, we're in week 3 now. So we're talking about running backs. This is our running back start sit. Of course, we cover every position, but, not kickers. We don't do kickers, right? No kickers.
No kickers.
If you know us, we're not big fans of kickers. The creators of the All Flex League, right? Which, how are we doing, by the way, in that league?
Don't ask. I just lost Christian McCaffrey. My team of superstars all laid eggs. Julio got me nothing. David Johnson got me nothing. Sean Watson got me nothing. Juju got me nothing. Everybody got me nothing. How about you? How you doing?
So good. Looked so good, just like everybody's fantasy roster at this point. I think it looks so good preseason. Now Julio, we don't even know if he's going to play this week. So, but that's for the receivers. Now, you mentioned Christian McCaffrey, and his was only the second most devastating blow to fantasy owners in this week because, of course, Saquon Barkley. There were a lot of waiver claims made this week at the running back position, and really not too many of them were that good. But you had to do it, right? So we're going to talk about those obvious guys. Let's start with Devonta Freeman. Somebody in your league picked him up, right? And they probably spent way more fab than they ever imagined. I know some people probably stashed him preseason. I got him in a couple of places, mainly best ball. But here's the question. If you got Freeman, you probably are a really sad, desperate Saquon Barkley owner. Are you going to play him this week, though? Because we don't know. I mean, supposedly he's in shape, but do we know how many touches he's going to get?
Yeah. Before we get into that, I have a little sob story. So I only did 3 leagues this year, and it's relevant to Devonta Freeman. So I'm not just over here crying me a river. I did our flex league. I did my usual family home league, and then I did that one FFPC best ball league that we did. Remember that?
That's right.
Which I had forgotten.
That was a crazy league.
Yeah, I'd forgotten all about until today. And I happened to go in and look, and I was like, oh, I'm in 4th place, and you're in 5th, by the way. So I looked at my roster, and you know what I remember? That was a league where I drafted 4th, and somehow Saquon Barkley fell to me at 4th, and I was so excited. So literally I'm in 3 leagues. I got the number 1 pick in my 2 redraft leagues, Christian McCaffrey both times, and then in the 1 best ball league, I got Saquon. Yeah. Anyways, not having fun, but I'm here to help you guys, so it's okay. In regards to Devonta Freeman, no, you can't start Devonta Freeman this week. No, you cannot start him this week. I can't imagine that a guy who's been out of football since last season and just signed with a team on, Tuesday or Wednesday? Did he sign today or yesterday? Whatever it was.
I think it was officially, it was today.
Yeah, officially it was today. Today was when it was official. Maybe he signed last night, but it was official today. Is going to play any significant role this weekend. You can't start him. I do actually like Freeman for the rest of the season as a solid RB2. I know a lot of people are like, oh, he's not very good. The Giants O-line, this and that. It doesn't matter. He was on behind a bad O-line last year. He had 993 total yards. This is only weeks 1 through 16. I'm not counting week 17. And 6 total touchdowns. That's it. That's all he had last year. And he was RB21 and he averaged 14.5 points a game. I don't care if the O-line's bad. I don't care if the Giants are bad. I don't care if Freeman's bad. He's good enough. He's going to be an RB2 for the rest of the season. But this week, he's got to be on your bench.
Okay, so you mentioned that. Now, I do notice that a lot of what I'm seeing on social media, and take that for what it's worth, but that's generally the consensus. What people feel, they're putting it out there, right? A lot of people are, exactly what you said. They're saying, well, why should I even be interested in Freeman? Like, the guy hasn't played yet. We don't know if he's in shape. He wasn't that good last year, which is kind of true because he only averaged, I think, 3.6 yards per carry. He's not one of these young upcoming backs anymore. He's, I think, 28, which for a running back these days looks pretty old. So The other thing also is you mentioned the O-line. The Giants O-line isn't very good either. Kind of trashy getting there. So a lot of people just aren't interested in this offense, period. Because Saquon Barkley, before he got hurt, I mean, he struggled against Pittsburgh. Remember, he had negative yardage in that first half. I mean, he was getting shut down. So I get that, right? A lot of people are saying, well, what's Freeman going to do for me? Like, he isn't even going to crack my starting lineup. But to me, I know you agree with this because we talk about it all the time. What matters the most in fantasy football? Opportunity, right? Who's getting the touches? He's going to get all of the carries in the backfield. Basically, if they had faith in Dion Lewis and Wayne Gallman, they wouldn't have gone out to sign Devonta Freeman. This is a team that, even though you would think, well, maybe they're not playoff bound, they want to be, right? They're not giving up in the season. They're not in rebuild mode. They already did that. They got their quarterback, right? They got good, young receiver in Slayton. They did have their franchise running back, right? They want to actually make the playoffs. So to me, he's going to get the touches. He has to be starting somewhere, right? At least in your flex spot, but not this week because this week, no.
Well, here's my question to all those people who are like, oh, there's no point in picking up Freeman. He's not going to do anything for you. Over the next 13 weeks, so this is week 3, over the next, 14 weeks because we have a bye. So the next 13 games, right? The next 13 games, which is how many games he'll get you in the fantasy playoffs, assuming next week he's ready to go and he gets full workload, which I think will be the case. Can he average 70 yards per game rushing and receiving? Is that realistic?
And that's exactly it. This is a guy who isn't just going to be there between the 20s, right, and then pulled. He's not going to be pulled on passing downs. He's a really good pass catching back. And so in PPR leagues, yeah, he's got that floor. And that's exactly it. No, the ceiling isn't very high, but he's got the floor because he's going to be the main pass catcher and the ball carrier.
Yeah. All he's got to do to match last year as far as what he did during the fantasy season is 70 yards a game and a touchdown every other game and catch 2 to 4 passes. And he'll basically be the exact same guy he was last year, which again was RB21 and averaging 14.5 points a game. That is more than good enough. That's better than Mike Davis is going to do. That's better than, Dion Lewis is obviously going to do, or any of these other running back waiver wire guys that everybody's feeding for right now. And sadly, it's probably better than Jerrick McKinnon is going to do, as much as I love McKinnon, because we're going to talk about McKinnon, and I love McKinnon, but McKinnon is going to be capped as soon as Mostert and Coleman come back, unfortunately. So, yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah, we love McKinnon. We're talked about him, but the thing is, like you said, okay, RB21, would you take that?
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Without McCaffrey, without Barkley, without Mostert, without all these without Le'Veon Bell, they're already out of the mix. All of a sudden, he's by default, he's a top 15 running back, and you're not going to want to take him. I mean, it's crazy. How many other running backs with that opportunity are you just going to pass on the waiver wire and say, nah, I'm good. I could do better. No, you can't. There is no other running back that will get as much opportunity as he will, like it or not. So are the Giants trash? Maybe. Is their offensive line trash? Probably. Is he still going to get you 70, 80 yards with a few touchdowns and a decent weekly floor? Yes.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So the end game here is you should have picked him up. It's a little late for that, but you should have picked him up. And if you did, don't start him this week, but hold on to him, right? Yeah. And then feel good about flexing him out. Now, as far as Jerrick McKinnon, we talked about waiver wire pickups. Honestly, it just made me laugh kind of out loud because all I see is people talking about, this is the week, right? Jerrick McKinnon, the breakout, go pick him up. And I mean, I had to laugh because in every single one of my leagues, I'm just telling the guys, good luck finding him. I already have him. He's on my roster. I drafted him. All right. I drafted McKinnon, and I know you got him, at least some of your leagues, because who did we talk about preseason? You and I have been talking about Jerrick McKinnon as a sleeper, a must-have late, on your bench. Not because we knew everyone's going to get hurt, but because we knew he has a potential, and here it is.
Yeah, and he already nobody started him weeks 1 and 2. Maybe some people started him last week. I know there was some talk about him being flex-worthy last week, so maybe some people did. But he's put up nice fantasy numbers in limited opportunities. He's an absolute must-start this week, right? We know Mostert's out. We know Coleman's out. There's a little risk here that Jeffrey Wilson gets a lot of the early down work, right? And maybe Hasty gets more than we want. But we got to think McKinnon is going to get more touches than he has been getting in weeks 1 and 2. And he's going to get really like highly like the touches he's going to get are going to be good opportunity touches, right? It's not going to be, 3rd and 1 running into a stacked box types of touches. He's going to get passes out of the backfield. He's probably going to line up as a receiver. He's going to get, to run against, in that Shanahan offense. So, yeah, he's a must start this week. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the matchup is just way too good to ignore against the team. We just talked about the Giants. Without Barkley, Giants, they're going to try to probably slow things down because playing the 49ers, that defense they're going to have to be careful with. They don't want Daniel Jones to turn the ball over 10 times. But you've got to think that even with Nick Mullins, that's the thing. Got the backup quarterback going. That's not a plus, right? This whole offense is kind of in shambles. But because of that, who's going to get a lot of touches? It's got to be McKinnon, just because he's got he'll probably do the most with his touches because, Jeffrey Wilson, he can get you 2 yards, right? That's my only thing is I'm going to be hating it when I see they're in a goal line situation and Wilson gets the 1-yard touchdown and McKinnon did all the work beforehand. But you don't get McKinnon because you expect a lot of touchdowns in a standard league anyways, right? He's a PPR guy, not so much a standard guy.
Yeah, and he can get the ball 20 yards out and take it to the house. So it's okay.
Right. So a little boom busty, but I don't expect too much of a bust, at least for this week. No way.
No.
All right. Another popular waiver wire pickup. Are you putting him in your lineup this week is Mike Davis because we know, again, he's going to get pretty much all the work. They didn't sign anybody, not that I know of. I don't think so. And I don't even know who they have behind him. Is it Reggie Bonifant maybe? So Mike Davis, yeah, we're probably going to see him get 20 touches. Does that interest you enough to say, okay, well, I spent the fab on him. I got to start him. I mean, if you're the McCaffrey owner, you probably have no other choice, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We're at a point where you probably don't have a better choice. My only issue, and I mean, I definitely would start Davis over Freeman. I would not start him over McKinnon. I just think McKinnon has way more upside this week. The problem with Davis this week is the matchup against the Chargers, right? They shut down running games. They're only giving up 67 yards a game on the ground so far. They've yet to give up a rushing touchdown. And they did this against Joe Mixon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So it's not like they did this against, backup nobodies. And with all due respect to Mike Davis, who I think is better than most people give him credit for, he's not on the level of Joe Mixon and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, on the plus side for him, he's going to catch a lot of passes, right? He's probably going to get at least 4 catches, could get upwards. I mean, he had 8 catches on like 2 drives last week. And that's the nice thing about this is they're going to be behind in Carolina. So in garbage time, he's going to get those dump offs from Teddy B. So I think he has an okay floor this week. I'm okay with his floor. I just don't like the upside this week. If it was a better matchup, I'd be all over this because he's going to get all the work. We know that. He's going to get all the work. I just worry he's not going to be able to do anything on the ground. And I just don't think he has enough upside through the air. But I think he's a solid start and just not super exciting for me this week.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's super excited to have or start Mike Davis, but it's kind of necessary evil, especially if you're trying to replace your number 1 overall pick. Sorry, Chris. But then, yeah, you got to do it. The good thing is, like you said, he is the pass catcher. It doesn't look like it's going to be a 2-man or even 3-man committee. It looks like it's Davis, and that's it. Like they just said, like, okay, you're the guy. So the good thing is, like you said, last week he caught 8 passes, right, for 74 yards. That was even, McCaffrey didn't miss the entire game. So for him to get that volume already, that's pretty promising. So he's not going to be McCaffrey. He might be more like, I guess, peak Gio Bernard or Chris Thompson maybe. But, hey, they were flex-worthy at one point. So, I think that he's solid. Not exciting, but he's solid enough. It's a brutal matchup, like you said. I mean, the Chargers, I know it's 2 games, but second toughest against running backs so far. And those are really good running backs they faced. That's the thing. I mean, this is a killer defensive line. So not ideal, but if they're going to dump it off, he can still get you some points. Yeah. So I guess the end game here is if you're the McCaffrey owner, you have no choice. You play him. If you don't need to flex him out, if you got somebody with higher upside, go for it. But don't be afraid necessarily to put Davis
Unless you're the McCaffrey owner who also drafted Jerrick McKinnon.
Well, there you go. That's a good point. Hey, if you went out and double dipped in the running backs, you got McKinnon and Freeman and Davis. I mean, and you know what? I like doing that because even if you have a lot of fab left and the rest of your roster is pretty solid, even if you didn't lose Barkley or whatever, you grab those guys so somebody else doesn't. All right. So there were some leagues where I went out and I tried to add those guys, not because I had to, just because I didn't want somebody else to get them. Right.
What if you drafted McCaffrey, McKinnon, and Freeman?
Then that was
I'm just saying.
I don't know what that is.
I'm just throwing that out there randomly. I don't know if anybody did that, but I'm just throwing that out there randomly.
I think I only have McCaffrey in one league where I was looking to get the number one pick. I honestly, I have McKinnon in several leagues, and I got Freeman in like 3 or 4.
Well, in our flex league, I drafted McCaffrey, Freeman, and McKinnon.
So you saved your fab, right?
Yeah, and I spent it all on Drew Sample, who I'm sure we're going to talk about later.
Oh, Drew Sample. That's way too exciting for this show. We're sticking to running backs, all right? Okay.
Well, I meant on later show, yes.
Yeah. Well, let's go down to Joshua Kelley. We're talking about the Chargers team. Now, Kelley also a guy, anybody who tried adding him in any of my leagues after week 1, good luck. I already had him. Honestly, I was all over him as a sleeper all preseason. And so far, so good. He's not blown up really, but man, 23 carries last week. He's getting touches and he's getting targets. He's not just running inside the tackles. Eckler's the pass catching back. Kelley's gotten a couple here and there too. So that leads me to think that they believe he could be a complete back. Now, obviously splitting time with Eckler still. Is Kelley a guy you feel comfortable starting this week in a pretty good matchup with Carolina?
I'll put it this, I'll show you how comfortable I am. In my home league, where I have McCaffrey and Davis and Hunt and McKinnon and Kelley, it's a home league. It's a 10-team home league. Okay, I'm not over here bragging that I have all these guys. It's a 10-team home league. Come on, it's casual players. I'm not bragging. But I can only start 2 running backs in 1 flex, and I'm going with McKinnon, Aaron Jones, who I just traded for, and Kelley. So I'm playing Kelley over Hunt, Davis. I'm obviously playing over McCaffrey. Yeah, and here's why. First of all, the matchup is great with Carolina. Okay, so in the first 2 games, they've given up over 120 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns in each game. Not total, in each game, right? And they've allowed 19 receptions to running backs. And I tweeted this stat out a couple days ago, and I asked the question, why aren't we treating Kelley like we treat Eckler? Here's the numbers for Eckler and Kelley. Eckler, 58 routes run, Kelley, 49. They both have 35 rushing attempts. Eckler is getting targeted on 12% of his routes. Kelley's getting targeted on 14% of his routes. So he's actually getting targeted more often in relation to the amount of routes he runs. Eckler, 1.41 yards per route. Kelley, 3.5 yards per route. Eckler, 4 carries inside the 20. Kelley, 8. Eckler, 1 carry. That's it, inside the 10 in 2 games. Kelley, 6. Give me Kelley this week for sure. I feel like 1 touchdown is his floor this week. I feel like he can have a 2-touchdown game, catch a couple passes, run for 70-plus yards. I love Kelley this week. He's a must start in my opinion.
All right, so end game there is pretty obvious. Start Kelley if you have him. Let me ask you this: you're begging the question. If you're a guy, and this probably happened quite a bit, right? Somebody who drafted Eckler really high, maybe first round, and then they said, "Oh, I better scoop up Kelley," and they got both guys. If you're in that position, let's say you have an Aaron Jones or somebody, Josh Jacobs, as your RB1, and then your RB2 maybe went running back early. All right, I'm just saying, you could start one of those guys. Would you start Kelley over Eckler this week?
No, I'm not going to go that far because here's the thing. Eckler is – so Kelley is getting he's getting the goal line carries, which is great. But he's also getting those short yardage, 3rd down carries. And those – you're playing against – the defense knows what's coming. You usually only get a yard or 2 on those, right? Eckler is getting the carries, the 2nd and long draw plays where the defense has 5, 6, 5 DBs out there, and he's running wild with all this space. And he's great. He's breaking a lot of tackles too, so I'm not taking anything away from Eckler. So, no, I wouldn't start him over Eckler. I think Eckler is going to have a monster game too. I think both these guys are going to have a monster game. I think the Chargers are just going to like Justin Herbert, I think they're barely going to throw the ball with him, and they're just going to run up and down the field with these two guys, and they're both going to have monster games. No, I wouldn't start Kelley over Eckler, though. As much as I like Kelley this week, I'm not that crazy.
All right, just saying. But okay, would you do see a scenario where you would start both? All right,
if I had
maybe one running back, one at flex.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
All right, yeah, it's matchup matters. Trust me. At this point, you just forget where you drafted them, forget how much you spent on them. For all that stuff, it does not matter, right? Who's got the best chance to put up points this week? And if it's two guys on the same team, you start two guys on the same team. So, all right, let's get on with. And actually, I was looking up. I'm interested to see. You were talking about how Kelley, they know what's coming. Look at how many times you have 8 defenders stack boxes, and sure enough, right now he's 5th. 31% of the time, you got 8+ defenders in the box. Number 1 is Peyton Barber. I don't know if that counts for anything. Number 2 is Tevin Coleman, who's not playing anymore. Sonny Michel's 3rd, who doesn't really count. And then Cam Akers, we don't know if he's going to play. Joshua Kelley is 5th, tied actually with Jonathan Taylor. So with Joshua Kelley's in the game, they know what's coming in. They're stacking the box. His rushing average probably won't be as high. So that's just kind of reinforcing what you just said.
Yeah, but against Carolina, it doesn't matter because that defense isn't good enough. He can average 4 yards a carry against Carolina, even against stacked boxes. And like I said, they've given up 3 touchdowns on the ground in each of the first 2 games. Not 3 total, 3 each. So he's going to get goal line carries. He's going to – if he doesn't score at least 1 touchdown, it's going to be a huge, huge disappointment.
All right, yeah, they could put 11 guys in the box. It probably wouldn't matter. He'll still get his.
Probably not.
Speaking of terrible defenses, Atlanta. Now, really, really, really bad pass defense. Run defense is slightly not bad. That is still allowing they're 23rd as far as most points allowed to running backs. So they get David Montgomery, and I'm interested here how you read this matchup because obviously you think, okay, playing Atlanta, lots of points, start him, right? But is this a pass defense that's too easy to exploit that maybe the running game won't be a factor? But also, how do you figure this to be? May not be as high-scoring a game as you think because Chicago still doesn't count as a dynamic offense. Atlanta probably could be without Julio Jones. So, I mean, I don't know. How do you figure? Is Montgomery a guy that you feel comfortable starting or you think he might disappoint?
No, I feel great. I have to admit I was wrong on Montgomery this year. I thought he was just going to, I was like, whatever, you're drafting this guy who's got no ceiling, but he's looked good. He's looked really good. He's looked explosive. He's looked really good. So I think if you have Montgomery, you got to roll him out. You got to just treat him as an every week RB2 at this point. It's Atlanta and they're getting torched in the air, but this is Mitch Trubisky and the Bears. I think Mitch Trubisky is going to have a nice game. I do, but this isn't like they're not going to throw the ball 40 times because it's the Falcons. You know what I mean? They're still gonna want to run it. They're still going to want to, take the ball out of Trubisky's hands, as much as they can. And I think Montgomery has a great game this week. I think if you got him, he has to be in your lineup.
Yeah, agree. It's funny because I wasn't a fan of Montgomery last year. I am this year because I feel like he's in better shape, which he does look a little bit quicker. I feel like they're going to dedicate to him more. I feel like just in general, things are going to flow better with this offense, which they are. The question is it going to be more like a Bears game or a Falcons game, right? And I feel like maybe the Bears won't have to throw it and play catch up and, try to exploit that pass defense because Atlanta might not have as easy a time against the Bears' pretty good defense. So, but yeah, I feel like they will try to get Montgomery going. And so, yeah, I would definitely start him if you have him. And then, of course, we have to talk about some of these committees, which we still have no idea what to do with. So tell me, what do I do with Tampa Bay? Because Fournette exploded last week, but that was all in the second half. And against, like you said, a really terrible Carolina defense. And then you got Ronald Jones, who started and actually looked pretty good, but that was against a really terrible Carolina defense. Can you start both this week? Going against Denver, which is not a bad defense, but maybe they'll just try to control the game on the ground because I'm probably not scared of Denver's offense.
Yeah, I mean, this Denver defense has given up over 100 yards in both games. James Conner went for 100 and whatever against them last week. So this defense isn't that dreaded, especially without Von Miller. This defense isn't that dreaded, defense that we're used to. I like Fournette this week as like a low-end RB2 flex type play. I'm not I'm off Ronald Jones. He came in, he looked pretty good, and then they had that weird like mix-up semi-fumble kind of thing, and it was like he disappeared. It was like they took him out to the sea and they fed him to the fishes. Like it was like Tom Brady looked at Bruce Arians and said, "That guy's not playing anymore." So, and then Fournette came in and was a beast and was great. So I got to think that Brady and Arians feel great about Leonard Fournette right now, who they also signed like a week before the season. So they already felt great about him. I'm sure right now they're feeling fantastic about him. And then LaShawn McCoy, who got, I think, like 6 targets in that game, dropped an easy end zone touchdown. So Brady's like, he's out. Get him out of here. I don't want to see that guy anymore. Maybe because it's LaShawn McCoy, he'll give him a little rope because he's a vet. But I do like Fournette a lot this week in this matchup. I think he's a low-end RB2 flex type and could definitely score a touchdown in this matchup. So I think he's a fine start. Ronald Jones, I'm on my bench. If I have Ronald Jones, he's on my bench.
Yeah, I don't think it's it's not a juicy enough matchup. We can say, yeah, I'll try both guys. To me, yeah, this is kind of, we were seeing it happen, right? We knew Fournette was going to take over. It was just a matter of when, it's going to be kind of slowly week by week. And after last week, it's going to be like, okay, yeah, he's ready. So I wouldn't be surprised even though if Jones technically starts, if he does, I think his touches are going to go down. Fournette, I think it's over now. So yeah, if I already have Fournette, which I have in only one league, yeah, I'm starting him because I didn't last week and now I regret that. All right, and then another committee here. Let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens, which you said Ingram is kind of done, but I guess he did okay last week, but maybe that was more matchup based. You got Ingram, you got Dobbins, who I don't know why people are asking whether you should start him. To me, you can't start Dobbins still. What about Ingram? Or do you have interest in both guys because you think maybe this Kansas City matchup is going to be a shootout?
I actually don't think it's going to be a shootout. I think Baltimore's going to control this game. I think their defense, maybe it's a little bit of a hangover, but I haven't been super impressed with that Chief. Maybe it's just like super incredible expectations. It's like Tiger Woods back in his prime. It's like he finishes third and you're like, why does Tiger Woods suck? Right? Maybe that's kind of how we feel about the Chiefs offense. Like it's halftime and they only have 10 points. What's wrong with the Chiefs? You know what I mean? I feel like this offense isn't quite clicking at its best. Baltimore's clicking on all cylinders. Yeah, Ingram had the better game last week. He had that 30-yard like direct snap touchdown thing that definitely propelled him. But here's the really concerning thing to me for Dobbins. Week 1, Dobbins led with 39% of the snaps. Ingram had 36, not that far behind, only 2 less snaps. And then Edwards had 15. You fast forward to last week, and suddenly Ingram leads, plays 42% of the snaps, and Edwards and Dobbins each played the same amount of snaps. So Edwards kind of crept up on Dobbins a little bit last week, and Ingram but the problem is that could be totally different this week. Now, I think on the plus side, again, I do think Baltimore's going to be controlling this game. I think Harbaugh's game plan is going to be run the ball, make Patrick Mahomes sit on the sidelines, get cold, get out of rhythm. So I could definitely see Ingram having value. Dobbins a little riskier because, again, Edwards kind of crept up on him from week 1 to week 2 as far as snaps. And if Edwards gets more snaps this week than Dobbins, you're really in trouble. So I like Ingram's okay, like a flex. I wouldn't even call Ingram an RB2. He might put up RB2 numbers, but I don't feel good about it. Dobbins, a little too risky for me. Maybe in like a deep league as a flex, but I'm pretty risky.
Yeah, like to me, you can't start Dobbins yet until you see more involvement. And to me, it's not even about snap count; it's about how many times they're giving him the ball. And we've seen that he made his day in week 1 by getting a couple of really short touchdowns. Last week he didn't do anything really special. I mean, he was okay, but what did he do for your fantasy team? Not a whole lot. And like you said, Ingram, it was kind of on that gimmick play. So I do feel like they're going to get more involved this week, exactly like you said. Edwards is just a matter of game script. If they're ahead, they'll bring him in second half and feed him the ball. That's not going to happen against Kansas City. At least I don't think so. So I'm sitting end game here. I'm not starting Dobbins and Ingram. I think you can flex him out. I have him, I think, just outside my top 25, but I got to revisit that. All right, so it is time. We've covered a lot of ground here, but one more pick for each boom and bust, right? We're going to pick a boom of the week, guy you think is going to blow up, and of course your bust, somebody who's probably going to be in lineups and is just going to let us down. All right, so start with the boom pick. Who you got?
My boom pick, I was ready for the bust. My boom pick, James Conner, my boy James Conner, against Houston. He is the guy in Pittsburgh, right? He magically, I was hoping Christian McCaffrey had the same ankle injury as Conner, but apparently he did not, unfortunately. But Conner magically got healed up in like a matter of days, went out there, handled pretty much every running back touch there was to handle, and looked really good. And now he gets a Houston defense that's very bad. And not only that, they're looking like, it's only week 2, so it's still early, but they're looking like a funnel defense in the sense that they're pretty good against the pass and they're really bad against the run. So I think Conner is going to have himself another really good week this week. James Conner in your lineup, and enjoy it.
All right. Yeah, I agree with that. Conner's, surprising me, and I think it's pretty obvious now, Tomlin, he's his guy, right? So as long as he's in the lineup, you got to start him. I'm going to surprise you here, a guy that I don't think I've ever really endorsed very much, but Devin Singletary, because word is that Zach Moss didn't practice today. He's got a toe issue. We've seen that already keep some guys out. If Singletary is the guy, I think not just because I think he's going to necessarily run all over the Rams, because they have a pretty good defensive line too, but he's going to get his share of receptions, I think, because this is a passing game that's been overachieving. They're going to have a tougher time. We'll put it that way, right, with some of the corners there. So I think we're going to see Singletary out of necessity more involved. It's going to be a closer game. So I look for him to at least be startable this week, which he hasn't really been the first 2 weeks. All right, what about your bust? Let's see a guy who you think is going to disappoint.
I'm kind of going back to the well here. Well, I guess people watching us didn't hear us last week, but I had Drake as my bust. I had Drake as my bust last week, and he got like 11 points, which I would consider a bust for a guy you're picking in the second round. I'm going to go with another second rounder, and that's Nick Chubb, playing again against my football team, the Washington football team. That defensive front is insanely good. And the thing with Drake was at least he had the pass catching, right? That kind of saved him and got him his 11 points because he caught a few passes, had some good plays in the passing game. Chubb isn't going to get that, right? Chubb isn't. He might get 1, maybe 2, but that's it. He's going to have to do all his work on the ground. And even though I do think the Browns will be in control in this game, I don't expect him to be playing from behind. He's going to have a tough sledding against that defensive front. He's going to need to fall into the end zone, which, as we saw last week, he's going to need like 10 tries to do that. So I have Chubb as my bust.
Yeah, that defensive line is no joke. That's true. Chubb, the only thing you got to watch out for, he's got that breakaway ability, right? He could turn one play into a 50-yard touchdown, but you don't necessarily want to bet on that. So I'm going to go with the guy I kind of already talked about this game, the Falcons and the Bears. Like Montgomery, I don't like Todd Gurley so much, but what I really don't like is I was watching part of the game last week, the Falcons game before the whole meltdown thing. But they were up at one point, up pretty big. And we were seeing Brian Hill get in the game. And then we saw Ito Smith get in the game. And then it was the red zone. And we saw Ito Smith, who's not as big as Todd Gurley, get in the game. So I'm thinking, okay, either they don't completely trust Todd Gurley, or they just want to limit his touches, or he's hurt. And he's not hurt yet, thankfully. So I don't feel like Gurley's going to be the guy so much that we expect him to be, that we want him to be. And against a tough defense, right, in a game that might not be high scoring, I just don't feel like he's got the juice. And, he's not putting up touchdowns like he did with the Rams. So has me a little bit worried. Not that I have Gurley anywhere, but if you do, you probably have to start him at this point. But I wouldn't love it. So we'll put it that way. All right, guys. Well, that's it. Now, obviously, a lot more running backs that we could cover. If you want to ask a specific question, leave a comment here on this YouTube channel. And you know what? Hit that subscribe button again just to be safe. I know you already did it at the beginning. Do it again, right? Tell everybody you know. If you want the best fantasy advice, come to the end game. All right. Thanks for watching.